but it does mean it is actually for the trust to lead the discussion with the Men's Shed about organising that. We have an interest because we require a groundsman's hut, or at least accommodation for our equipment, and that is of direct relevance to the trust itself, because under a separate agreement, not because we're the custodian trustee, but simply because we have an agreement, a service level agreement with them to provide support services. Because of that, we need facilities on site for our equipment. As it says at the bottom, we have alerted both Dorothy Collard and Brian Mayo to the above position, but we haven't set it out in detail because it seemed right that we share it with you first. But I intend to send a more formal letter to each of them tomorrow, which will set out what's in this note and will give them a legal advice and so on. Then I think we all want to move ahead and get three-way discussions underway in order to confirm the Men's Shed and also the provision of a garage for the parish council. So I don't think the overall direction has changed at all in terms of what we're all trying to achieve here. But it does mean that the mechanism is rather different, and the way that actually gets described in legal terms may well be different. This may come as a surprise to some of you. Others may have expected this, I don't know. But certainly, I think in the longer term, this will clarify no end the position. It will clarify that even though we hold all the land and the buildings, including the title to the pavilion, the groundsman's hut and the tennis courts, nevertheless, it is entirely up to the trust to look to the management of all of those and how they should be dealt with in the future. The main limitation on the trust is, of course, the terms of the trust and its objectives. So anything there has to be used in the interest of the community. I think the Men's Shed almost certainly would qualify as being one of the things that falls under that. So this note is essentially for information because it is simply picking up on the instruction at the last council meeting. But if any of you dissent from the idea that we should continue the discussions on this basis, do let me know. Otherwise, this will be the basis on which further discussions proceed. That's all I have to say on this item. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to it? I can't see anybody. Nick, sorry, Keith, can you see anybody?
No.
No. Okay, we'll note that item, but I will circulate to you all the legal advice and the cross-reference to the Charity Commission website, so you can see for yourself quite how we ought to proceed on this. And we will now pick up again the discussions with Dorothy Collard and Brian Mayo about trying to progress the Men's Shed as soon as we can. Thank you very much for that. Right, can I move on to what is the last item on our agenda, which is item 9, the item 10, which is a report from the Flood Action Group. You may recall we've had a presentation from the Flood Action Group in the past. They have now prepared a paper which the back is 2 papers. One is an upfront paper coming to us, asking us if we're prepared to do a number of things. And behind it is a paper which is showing what is the immediate piece of work that they want to proceed. That second paper has actually existed for a while. They shared it with us before. And that sets out a commitment they'd ideally want in terms of funding some of their work. We have in the past said to the Flood Action Group that we are sympathetic to what they're trying to do, but when they brought this up, it was just at the moment that we were approving the budget for the year which we're now in. and literally they wanted to put an item to the same agenda as we were actually approving the budget. And we regretfully had to say to them, well, that's too late. You can't do that there without changing the whole budget. There is not space in our budget to do that. However, we did say to them less formally that as we went through time, we would consider whether the way the budget was going or the way our reserves were going as to whether we could actually make any payment. I don't think we envisaged being able to do that yet. It's still very early in the financial year, but one wasn't saying no to them, but it was really a question of how our finances were going. But I'd like a general view on that. But also they're asking two other questions really. They're asking actually if we would be prepared not only just to join, but to actually lead the work of the ACT group. I personally find that difficult because it seems to me that the group exists in its own right to do various things, and the Parish Council may well support it and hope we would, but to take over the running of the action group, I'm not so sure about. And I am not sure that we're yet in a position to commit money to their survey work. But that's as far as I will go. I leave it to others to ask, to respond to the questions which are put to you by the end of the paper by Mike Kendall. Who would like to come back on this?
I'll start things rolling and say, I think basically I'm in agreement with your what you've just said, Roger. I mean, I think it's going to be difficult for the Parish Council to take the lead on the flood action group, and equally I agree on the point really the money, that particularly given the fact that we are still in a zero income situation at the moment as far as our normal income from the village hall and things are concerned, and we don't know where that's going to lead. That I think it's difficult for us to commit to funding at the moment, although I think we're quite right to say that we would look at it when later in the year. I also got a little bit concerned by part of the document where it asked for us to effectively take the lead in trying to encourage Gresham and Hawkley and Selborne in getting involved, because I think that's really something the flood action group should be doing and not something that we should be doing as a parish council. That's just my personal feel.
Thank you for that view, Keith. Any other views? I would just want to make one comment. I would be very comfortable to offer myself to actually join the flood action group and therefore be a liaison between the group and the Parish Council, but I'm certainly not offering myself to chair it or lead it. That's on the table if you were happy with that. Now I can see Howard indicating. Anybody else?
Yeah, and also Nick. I think Nick was first actually, so go Nick and then Howard.
Nick and Howard.
Well, I think my starting point is question or proposal 2. I think that this should be considered as a strong candidate for funding as and when we might have some funding available. Having said that, I don't feel comfortable that the Parish Council should take over the running of the group, because we would then essentially be negotiating with ourselves. I think it would be healthier for it to be run independently, though obviously it would be great if Roger was willing to be a member of the committee. I'd quite like to understand more why Keith feels we shouldn't be helpful in relation to item 3. If we're talking to parish and town, if there needs to be discussion with other parish and town councils, I'd have thought we would be best qualified to facilitate that, not necessarily to be the only people involved in the discussions.
Thank you for that. I think there may be a difference between us very much participating and being an active member of any meeting with other parishes, and the difference between that and us actually leading that meeting, which I think is what Keith was slightly questioning.
Yeah.
I think what I was really saying was that we might have we could be helpful in making sure the meetings happen because of understanding how those sister councils operate and how you twist people's arms to become, communitaire about such things.
Say that point.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get to Howard? Sorry, Keith, did you want to come back on that?
No, that's fine. No, I think I'd agree with what Nick's saying.
Okay, that's fine. Can I go to Howard?
Yes, I don't think we should, as parish council, be leading this. I think taking an interest in it, perhaps having somebody attending their meetings is one thing, but I don't think we should be leading it. I think it should be done outside the parish council. The other thing is, I'm looking at the page which has funding required on it, and I just don't understand it because the figures don't add up. You've got 3 areas, A, B and C, and they do have a total of 24.9 kilometres of river. But when you come down to it, I'm not sure what the figures stand for there because the all areas doesn't add up to the others. And I've missed something, I think.
I think if I can help there, Howard, I think what it's saying is that if the commitment was to all areas at the same time, then the cost would be lower than if it was taken individually. So I think there's actually a discount to be had if all areas were committed to at the same time. I'm guessing that's because of travel and so on from their side.
Yes,
Well,
that is my understanding as well. So if you do it all at once, it costs 11,495. But if you do them separately, then you get the individual figures for the different areas.
Okay, yeah, I'd missed that trick.
I have to say, I had to read it at least twice to find that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. I mean, you're talking about quite a reduction in places, and it seems I don't feel comfortable with the figures. Sometimes you get a set of figures and you look at them and you don't feel comfortable without exactly knowing why. So I think that's my position here.
Okay. Any other comment?
Yeah.
I just wondered whether, I think it's right that the parish council don't take over the running of it, but shouldn't this be something like East Hampshire District Council with representatives from the parishes?
I slightly turn to Keith with his district council hat on. I don't know what involvement East Hampshire has. Do you know?
I honestly don't know. It's not something I'd actually consider from a district council perspective. So I need to take that one away and come back on that.
It is quite an important issue when you think about the number of houses, say in Liss.
Yeah. I'm not disputing you, Leanne. I just don't know what the position is. I need to go away.
Yeah. I just think it needs to be maybe at a higher level with representatives from the parish council on the action group.
Okay.
Could I just say, Leanne, on that point, slightly more generally, the paper with the figures in we saw a while ago, and one had a bit of discussion with Mike Kendall and said to him, well, look, why have you just picked out the parish councils here as funding you? There are other levels of local authorities, but there are other bodies as well who you might be able to go to for. We weren't entirely comfortable with them simply saying that the parish councils should do this. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure that the other parish councils will not fund at this sort of level. So we've already had a bit of pushback at them and said, look, surely there must be it must be a broader base on which you can fund this.
Howard,
Yeah,
and then Ian, and then Nick again, I think.
okay. Talking about involving people at higher level, I went to a meeting within the last couple of years, I think, at the fire station in Eastleigh, and one of the issues that came up was flooding, and it was made quite clear that the responsibility of it is the county council's responsibility, although there was scope that they could get the district councils to do the work for them. So in legal terms, it shouldn't be coming to us.
Okay, thank you for that. Ian James.
Sorry, it was a similar point to Howard's actually. What relationship is the Flood Action Committee got to the Environmental Agency, which I would have thought would have been responsible for this sort of work?
Yes, I mean, to answer that in general terms, there has been quite a lot of interaction between both art and also the particularly art and the Environment Agency. This is a particular bit of work, really sort of trying to scope things, which the Environment Agency had already indicated they weren't prepared to fund, which is why we have this in front of us. Whereas there has been other survey work, which is actually referred to in the paper under the heading Scoping Study Proposal, which was funded by the Environment Agency. So the Environment Agency is certainly in touch with the Arun and Rother Rivers Trust and vice versa. But this comes about because the Environment Agency said they would not fund this particular study. I don't know quite why they didn't think it was worth funding. There may be good reasons, there may not be on that, but certainly they have said they won't do it. Nick Wilson.
Two things. One, on the issue of the reluctance of major public bodies to do something. As I understood it, the argument for doing this survey work was to provide evidence to persuade them to do so. And therefore, I do think having an action group, which isn't, a local authority body, but is community-based, would be a powerful way of making the case once the survey work has been done, though with support from us if we have been persuaded by the results of the survey. Second point was just to explain why I thought that the survey would be a strong candidate for consideration when we have money available. It is that this is a threat to people's homes, and we have the SIL funding due to come on stream at some point in the future, which is about building new homes. And it seems to me that the connection between the two does make this a potentially strong candidate.
Okay, any other comment? Right, I take from that then that we basically would like to indicate our support for their work, and certainly that we would be very prepared to join their group, and I would be happy to put myself forward as the representative. And I think we will continue to discuss with them future funding, both by ourselves but also other agencies on this. But we're not going to be prepared to take the lead on this, and at the moment are not able to offer the funding that they are asking for. Is that fair?
Agreed, yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll take that as the position then, and we'll convey that to them. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. We have got through our council meeting by just past 22 minutes past 8. Something to be said for virtual meetings, I think. It focuses the mind, as far as I can see. So thank you very much. We will discuss this with Sarah, but we will ensure that the gap between us and the next council meeting is very much shorter, particularly after the success of this meeting. I think we can probably hold another one soon. Although I am still inclined to do it when we've got things that really need a bit of discussion rather than just for the sake of it.
Sorry, Roger,
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add, for the sake of the public watching on YouTube, we are aware that we lost the YouTube broadcast for a while in the middle of the meeting. So the recording of the meeting will be made available on the, I presume, on the council website at some point in the near future, if people want to see the bit that they missed.
Thank you very much, Keith, and thank you to everybody for taking part.